Our planet faces a hidden danger. Microplastics, tiny particles of plastic less than 5 millimeters in size, have infiltrated every corner of our world. From the deepest oceans to the air we breathe, these insidious fragments pose a growing risk to our environment and our health. Microplastics come from various sources, breaking down from larger plastic debris, shedding from synthetic fabrics, or manufactured for specific uses, like microbeads in cosmetics. These particles persist in the environment, resisting natural decomposition and accumulating over time. Their small size allows them to travel vast distances, carried by wind and water currents. They infiltrate ecosystems, contaminating food chains and posing threats to wildlife and human health. We must act now to curb plastic pollution and mitigate the risks posed by these invisible threats.
Much of the plastic waste we generate doesn't truly disappear. It fragments into smaller and smaller pieces, eventually becoming microplastics. Plastic bottles, bags, and packaging exposed to sunlight, wind, and waves break down into these tiny particles. The durability of plastic, once touted as a benefit, becomes its downfall. Unlike organic materials that decompose naturally, plastics can persist in the environment for hundreds of years. These microplastics, often too small to be seen with the naked eye, infiltrate waterways, soils, and even the air we breathe. Addressing the problem of microplastics requires tackling the root cause, our reliance on single-use plastics.
Microbeads, another significant source of microplastic pollution, are tiny plastic spheres typically less than 1 millimeter in diameter. These manufactured particles were once commonly added to personal care products like exfoliating scrubs, toothpastes, and cleansers. Once in aquatic environments, microbeads are often mistaken for food by marine life, leading to ingestion and potential harm. Thankfully, awareness about the environmental impact of microbeads has led to legislation banning their use in many countries.
Our clothes, often made from synthetic fabrics like polyester, nylon, and acrylic, are a surprising but significant source of microplastics. Every time we wash these garments, tiny fibers shed from the fabric and enter the wastewater stream. Washing machines can't effectively filter out these microscopic fibers, allowing them to pass through wastewater treatment plants and eventually reach our waterways. Once in the environment, these microplastic fibers can be ingested by marine animals, potentially leading to physical harm and disrupting the food chain. Choosing clothing made from natural fibers like cotton, linen, or wool is one step to reduce microplastic pollution.
Our oceans, once teeming with life, are now facing a silent invasion. Microplastics, carried by rivers, winds, and wastewater discharges, have infiltrated every corner of the marine environment. These microplastics are often mistaken for food by marine animals, leading to ingestion and potential harm. Zooplankton, the base of the ocean food web, consume these particles, mistaking them for their natural prey. As these tiny particles accumulate in the digestive systems of marine organisms, they can cause physical damage and blockages. The presence of microplastics in our oceans poses a significant threat to the health and survival of marine creatures.
The impact of microplastics extends far beyond our oceans, reaching into our soil, air, and even the food we eat. These tiny particles, carried by winds and water, have infiltrated terrestrial ecosystems, accumulating in soil and sediment, impacting plant growth and potentially entering our food chain. Microplastics in soil can interfere with water retention and nutrient uptake by plants, potentially affecting crop yields and the health of terrestrial ecosystems. These particles can also become airborne, transported by wind currents over long distances. We must address the sources of plastic pollution to prevent further contamination of our planet.
The pervasiveness of microplastics has led to a disturbing discovery. These tiny particles have infiltrated our food chain and even our bodies. From the seafood we consume to the water we drink, microplastics have become an unwelcome guest at our tables and a potential threat to our health. While the long-term health effects of microplastic ingestion on humans are still being studied, concerns remain about their potential impact. The presence of microplastics in our bodies highlights the need for collective action to address plastic pollution.
The impact of microplastics on animal health is a growing concern, with evidence suggesting these tiny particles can have significant and often devastating effects on a wide range of species. From microscopic zooplankton to massive whales, marine animals are particularly vulnerable to the ingestion of these insidious pollutants. For many marine creatures, microplastics present a cruel mimicry, resembling food sources in size, shape, and even color. Sea turtles, for example, often mistake plastic bags for jellyfish, a staple in their diet. Seabirds, too, are falling victim to the plastic plague, ingesting colorful plastic pellets that resemble fish eggs or small crustaceans. The impact of microplastics extends beyond the individual animal, affecting entire populations and ecosystems. The dangers of microplastics extend beyond their physical presence. These tiny particles act as sponges, absorbing and concentrating persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, from the surrounding environment. POPs, a group of toxic chemicals that include pesticides, industrial chemicals and flame retardants, pose significant risks to both human and animal health. When marine organisms ingest these contaminated microplastics, the POPs can leach from the plastic into their digestive systems, potentially disrupting endocrine function, causing reproductive problems, and even increasing the risk of cancer. This process of bioaccumulation, where contaminants build up in an organism's tissues over time, can have devastating effects, particularly for long-lived species. The combination of microplastics and POPs presents a complex and concerning threat to the health of our planet.
While the full extent of the impact of microplastics on human health is still being investigated, their presence in the food we eat, the water we drink, and even the air we breathe raises growing concerns about their potential to harm us. Studies have shown that microplastics can cross the gut barrier and enter the bloodstream, potentially reaching vital organs and tissues. Furthermore, the chemicals that leach from microplastics, such as bisphenol A, BPA, and phthalates, are known endocrine disruptors, meaning they can interfere with the body's hormones. These disruptions have been linked to a range of health problems, including reproductive issues, developmental problems in children, and an increased risk of certain cancers. Reducing our exposure to these pervasive particles by minimizing single-use plastics and supporting plastic reduction policies is crucial for protecting our health.
While reducing our reliance on single-use plastics is crucial, addressing the issue of microplastics requires a multifaceted approach, incorporating practical steps into our daily routines to minimize our impact. One effective strategy is to minimize the release of microplastics from synthetic clothing. Choosing clothing made from natural fibers like cotton, linen, or wool is a great first step. But for those times when synthetic fabrics are unavoidable, using a laundry filter designed to capture microfibers can help prevent their release into the environment. In addition to laundry habits, we can also make a difference in the bathroom by opting for cosmetics and toiletries that use natural exfoliants like salt, sugar, or ground seeds. Beyond personal choices, supporting companies and organizations actively working to address plastic pollution can amplify our impact. Choosing products with minimal packaging and supporting businesses committed to sustainable practices are all meaningful ways to contribute to the solution.
From waste to resource, the power of recycling and proper disposal. In a world grappling with the consequences of overconsumption and waste, embracing the principles of a circular economy where resources are used and reused in a closed loop becomes paramount. Recycling, a cornerstone of this circular approach, plays a vital role in reducing plastic waste, conserving resources, and mitigating the flow of microplastics into the environment. Properly sorting and recycling plastic items from bottles and containers to packaging materials ensures these materials are diverted from landfills and incinerators, where they can leach harmful chemicals into the environment or break down into microplastics. Instead, recycled plastics can be transformed into new products, reducing the demand for virgin plastic production and lessening the strain on our planet's finite resources. However, recycling alone is not enough. Equally important is ensuring proper disposal of plastic waste, particularly those items not accepted in curbside recycling programs. Plastic bags, films, and other flexible plastics often require specialized recycling facilities and should never be discarded in regular trash or recycling bins. By taking the time to educate ourselves about local recycling guidelines and making a conscious effort to properly dispose of plastic waste, we can prevent these materials from ending up in landfills, incinerators, or worse, our environment, where they can persist for hundreds of years, breaking down into microplastics and perpetuating the cycle of pollution.
Advocating for change and supporting innovation. Addressing microplastic pollution requires a collective effort from informed citizens, responsible businesses, and responsive governments. By raising our voices and supporting innovative solutions, we can make plastic pollution a relic of the past. Engaging in conversations and sharing knowledge can inspire others to take action. Supporting sustainable businesses and developing innovative solutions are crucial steps. Advocating for policies that promote plastic reduction and effective waste management is essential. Supporting research into bioplastics can reduce our reliance on conventional plastics. The fight against microplastic pollution is a marathon, requiring sustained effort and commitment. By working together and embracing innovation, we can create a sustainable future.
The unseen threat, a shared responsibility. The journey into the world of microplastics reveals a profound truth. We are linked to the health of our planet. These tiny particles remind us that our actions have far-reaching consequences. Microplastics in our environment underscore the need for collective action. Addressing this challenge rests on all of us. Our individual choices can affect meaningful change. By embracing our role as stewards, we can chart a course toward a future without plastic pollution. The task is daunting, but it offers an opportunity for innovation and collaboration. By harnessing our ingenuity, we can develop new technologies and shift towards sustainable consumption. The transition won't be easy, but the alternative is unacceptable. The fight against microplastic pollution is a call to action. It's a chance to move from a culture of disposability to one of stewardship. The time for action is now.
Turning the tide, one action at a time. The journey toward a plastic-free future begins with a single step, a conscious choice. There is no single solution, no magic bullet that will instantly eradicate microplastics from our environment. It's the cumulative impact of countless individual actions that will ultimately turn the tide. Start by examining our own consumption habits and supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability.